Very loud.
To Sutainachella. Thank you so much for joining us. We're super excited to have you guys here today. Today we're going to be talking about underwater world. So super excited to hear our experts from the Nature Conservancy talking to you about that. So well, my name is Flavia Tonioli. I'm the sustainability manager with the city. We also have Yanni Pineda here. Say hi, Yanni.
Hi, everyone.
All right, and guys, we are getting a little bit fancy today. Instead of just using the chat to do some warm up, we are going to do a pool. And Yanni, do you want to share the pool with everyone? So
Sure.
guys, in a few seconds, you guys are going to see this pool with 3 questions, and then you guys can click in the alternatives. And let me know, Yanni, when you are, here you go, we can all see it. Oh, no, you're actually showing the results, Yanni.
Am I?
It's all good. Here, I'm ending it, relaunching it.
And now you're good. It says they're now, they should be able to
see it.
I don't think it's working for me either. Is it working for you guys?
We can see it.
Oh, you guys can. Oh, now we can. Here we go. It's because
we're
yeah. There you go. All right. So yeah, guys, we want to know, where are you joining us from? Who are the folks from Miami Beach? Do you have folks from Hawaii? Oh, other cities. Who is from other US cities? Where are you guys from? Please use the chat. We want to hear from you guys. Let me see here in the chat. Yeah, it worked. Thank you. Thank you, Liz. Here you go. Liz is the best. New York. All right, Alicia. Thank you for joining us. Salem, Oregon, Cleveland. Oh, look at that. Awesome, guys.
And if you guys want to share your comments with everyone, make sure you choose to all panelists and attendees, or everyone, so that we can all see where we're from and what our answers are.
And we have Miami Beach. Luis from our sustainability committee is in the house. Thanks for joining. Miami, Nashville. Awesome. Awesome. All right. How are we doing, Yanni? We have about 43 participants that have joined. Should we give a few more seconds here to see if more folks join in?
I would say another 15 seconds or so. It looks like a good chunk of you guys have already voted.
Yeah, and for the guys that are on Facebook Live, if you register in Zoom and come to Zoom, you'll be able to participate in that. So, you know, just come to Zoom, Sutainachella, in our Sutainachella page, so you can register and join us at Zoom. All right, and how did you hear about us? Most of the folks hear about us from emails. Okay, and if you could be any of these marine animals, which one would you be? Oh, everybody loves dolphins. Not that many people. I saw that a bunch of people were going to say about manatees. What about the panelists, guys?
I think I'm a seahorse. Seahorse.
Guess no one wants to be a starfish.
A tough decision between a shark and a dolphin, but I went with the dolphin. It's so much.
Me too. Fellow dolphin.
Aww.
We have Les wants to be a stingray. He came in with his full name, and I almost didn't recognize him.
I know, yeah. Les has Les, you're cheating. Yeah, it took me a while to see that was him too. Yeah. All right, cool. So I think we have a good amount of folks here, so maybe we start heading it, right? Let's see the results here. All right, Miami Beach is in the house. Yeah, the majority of the folks coming from Miami Beach. A lot of folks from Hawaii. Thanks, guys. And Miami Beach. Yeah. Help us welcome all the other cities that join us today. Please give a warm welcome to everyone. Majority of people got us from, heard from us from email, and the majority of people really want to be a dolphin, right? Who doesn't?
Yeah.
They're so cute.
All right.
Awesome.
All right, I'm going to stop sharing the results so we can keep going.
Awesome. Thanks, Annie.
Okay.
All right.
You'll see my screen?
Here. We can see your screen, yeah. Now we can see it.
Awesome. And for those of you joining us for the first time, we have these workshops. They vary. Most of the time they're twice a week or once a week. We recommend going to our website to learn more about them. Our next one is on creative coastlines. So you'll learn about different methods of protecting our coasts and shorelines. So we recommend that you register for that one. And for those of you who, well, I mean, there's many of you who have been here before because a lot of those names seem familiar. While you're on Zoom, you'll probably notice that some of you, well, the majority of you are all muted and your videos are disabled except for the panelists. If you want to ask the questions, please type it in the Q&A box because this helps us with keeping track of the questions and it helps make sure that we don't lose your comments within the comments section. And in the chat, we really recommend that everyone send your comments to everyone or all panelists and attendees because it kind of keeps the conversation going, and I think it helps to know what everyone's thinking. It's nice to engage this way. And now I will turn it over.
And they can raise their hands too, right?
Yes.
And maybe guys, if we ask you questions like, have you been to Hawaii? And then you guys can raise your hand, and then we can see how many people raise their hand and how many people have been to Hawaii. Okay, nobody wanted to test that with me. All good.
I think Armando just raised his hand. Oh, Michelle too.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for raising your hands. All right. So let's go to our partners right now. All right, guys. So we have a full team here from the Nature Conservancy in Florida and in Hawaii. I'll start introducing Chris Berg with the Nature Conservancy in Florida.
Hello, everybody.
Thanks, Chris. All right, and then we have Caitlin Lustig with the Nature Conservancy in Florida as well.
Hi.
Hey, I love your scream. I love your background. Really cool. And then we have Emily Fielding from the Nature Conservancy in Maui, Hawaii.
Hey, everybody.
All right, and then we have Karine from Maui Nui Makai. Thank you for joining us.
Aloha, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, guys, we are going to start with Chris now with his presentation. And Chris, we are going to stop sharing our screen right now so you can start sharing yours. And give us a second. Yanni, we are still seeing your screen, Yanni. You need to stop sharing. Here we go. All right, Chris, you can take over now.
Okay, is everybody seeing a diver on the screen?
Yes.
Fantastic. Hi, everybody. So yes, I'm Chris Berg. I'm the South Florida Program Manager with the Nature Conservancy, based in the Florida Keys on Big Pine Key. And I'm going to really introduce a bit, just quickly, what is the Nature Conservancy and a little bit about Florida's coral reefs. And then Caitlin is going to give you some more detailed information about one of our restoration coral reef restoration projects, and then on to Hawaii. So thank you all for joining us. The Nature Conservancy, just quickly, is an international conservation organization. We're based in Washington, D.C. area, but we work in all 50 U.S. states and almost 80 countries around the world. We work on terrestrial and marine and freshwater conservation. And Florida has been a focus for us for many years. As you can see by the green blotches on the map, which are priority conservation areas for us, quite a few of them overlap in Florida. We've got the longleaf pine forests of the northern part of the state, the Gulf of Mexico, the Atlantic Ocean, and the Everglades. So lots of action in Florida. We, the Nature Conservancy, have always been drawn to work in Florida because of the incredible biological diversity, and you can see some of the beautiful images of plants and wildlife on the side of the screen there. But also, we really are focused not only on native species and natural areas, but also on people and how they interact with those species, populations, and those natural areas, how they depend upon nature for their livelihoods and for their quality of life. So Florida is full of natural resource dependent industries, tourism, fishing, timber, agriculture, and so on. So this has been, we've been going at it here in Florida since 1961, and we've really been focused on marine conservation comparatively recently. We really got our start as a land-oriented organization, but we've been focused on marine conservation in Florida for quite a while. And, you know, naturally, Florida, with its long coastline, its, you know, extensive estuarine and marine waters, and the diversity and all these people that depend upon the marine ecosystems lead us in that direction. So this gives you some extent in the pale gray there. That's the outline of the south end of Florida. And a lot of people, when they think of coral reefs, think of the Florida Keys, and that's for good reason. Those are the southern end, southern side of the photo here, the bottom side of the photo. The big blue polygon is the Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary. We've got a couple of national parks, Dry Tortugas and Biscayne National Parks, which are very important coral reef conservation areas. And then the red dotted line to the north along the mainland is the ecosystem, coral reef ecosystem conservation area managed by the state of Florida. And then lots of other smaller state parks and other managed areas within. But really that it runs from Martin County at the north end through the Dry Tortugas in the south end. It's about 330 miles of a continuous coral reef ecosystem. And it is North America's, other than Hawaii, only coral reef. And, you know, it's right next to Miami, right next to a lot of population. We get a tremendous amount of use by local people and by visitors. Lots of tourists using this resource. So the values of these reefs are remarkable. So the diversity of plants and particularly animals, not just the corals, but fish and invertebrates and others, is incredible, not just in Florida, but on reefs throughout the world. The fisheries, the reef fish, the spiny lobster, and others represent, just from the commercial fishery side, more than $100 million per year worth of economic action. Tourism, even larger, a little over $1 billion worth of reef-related tourism activity. And we recently, along with colleagues at the University of California, Santa Cruz, and the U.S. Geological Survey completed a study of the benefits of coral reefs for coastal protection during storms. And those suggest that in Florida alone, we derive about $675 million worth of avoided damage from storms on an annual basis. So these are really serious numbers, and let's not forget the biological diversity as well. So yes, people benefit, but incredibly large numbers of fish and other wildlife depend upon these reefs for their well-being as well. Unfortunately, reefs throughout the world are threatened by a variety of challenges. We have things affecting Florida's coral reefs that start at the global level, global climate change, which can induce coral bleaching, which you see in the upper photo there, and many other effects. We have water pollution effects, both from things like the sewage outfall in the middle photo to septic tanks and other inadequate wastewater systems elsewhere. And we've got an altered landscape in South Florida. The Everglades ecosystem was really highly altered over the last century. And so not enough clean fresh water reaches our estuaries, and the estuaries are closely linked with the reefs as far as juvenile fish and other wildlife. So getting that put back together is a real big priority. And then we've got lots and lots of what you might think of as acute impacts, things like the anchor dragging along the coral, or the chain from the anchor dragging along the coral in the bottom photo, the impacts of fishing and diving and boating. As a fisherman, a diver, and a boater myself, and one who tries not to have impacts, I can tell you sometimes I make a mistake. You know, we all have our impacts, and we really need to be thinking about our individual contributions as well as these larger, very challenging problems like water quality and climate change. So what do you do about it? We, the Nature Conservancy, along with lots of other conservation-oriented organizations, and of course government, both federal, state, and local governments, are all working to address threats, to maintain or improve or restore the condition of these coral reefs as much as we can. We start with the science. You know, what is it? Which corals, which locations do we want to focus on the most? Which ones are subjected to which threats? And what can we do about it? So just as an example, in the Florida Keys, where all of our wastewater was handled by septic tanks until very recently, we identified long ago, about 30 years ago, that those septic tanks allowed nutrients and pathogens and other bad things to reach the ocean and eventually, in some cases, reach coral reefs. And 30 years later, and $1 billion, a billion with the B later, worth of centralized wastewater infrastructure, we're now beginning to see the benefits of the improved water quality from that project, or that series of projects. So climate change is another huge challenge, as I mentioned. Again, this is coral bleaching induced by heat, the white corals on the bottom photo. We, along with all of the public agencies and other conservation organizations, organize a program called the Florida Reef Resilience Program. And one of its signature efforts is an annual survey of coral bleaching and coral diseases throughout the entire 300+ miles of the Florida Reef ecosystem. That gives us an ability to say how bad or not bad the bleaching and disease was in any given year. And it also allows us to look at that data set year after year and begin to identify patterns. And there may be areas that bleach very frequently but recover, and we try to use that to understand why. What is it about those areas that allow them to recover when others succumb to the impacts? The Nature Conservancy used to run that monitoring program, and now the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission runs it. But all of the reef managers, conservation organizations, and lots of universities contribute to the gathering the data. And you need not be a marine biologist or a politician, a policymaker to have an impact on these coral reefs. As I mentioned, each of us who fish and dive or boat have our impacts. And this is a communications campaign put together by the Florida Reef Resilience Program. It's Respect Our Reef, and if you punch that into your browser, you will find the 7 simple ways that any active reef user, fisherman, diver, boater, can have a positive influence by doing the right things and not doing the wrong things. Altogether, we're doing our best to reduce the pressures on the reefs, sustain their abilities to sustain us and our economy and all the wildlife. But we have found over the years that the things that we have done to date are not enough. So we are, in addition, really focused on coral reef restoration. And that is my cue to pass it over to Caitlin. She's going to give you a very specific example from the dry tortugas. So thank you all, and I'll take some questions later.
Awesome. Thank Chris. Thank you so much. That was awesome. And Caitlin, let us know if you can share your screen. Otherwise, we can always manage the presentation for you. Oh, it's happening. You got it.
Happening. Okay.
There you go.
Can you see it?
Yeah,
all right.
Good.
Thanks, Chris, for the setup. So just to get everyone oriented, Dry Tortugas National Park is located about 70 miles west of Key West in the Gulf of Mexico, and it can only be accessed by boat, ferry, or seaplane. The park has a long history since its discovery in 1513. Fort Jefferson, which is that top picture on the left, is what it's really well known for. It was built in 1846 and abandoned just under 30 years later. In the early 1900s, a research station was built at Loggerhead Key, And many coral reef scientists spent time there mapping the biological resources, so we have a really rich history of what the reefs have looked like over time. Shortly thereafter, the Dry Tortugas was designated as a wildlife refuge to protect nesting birds from egg collectors. It was then designated as a national monument in 1935, and in 1992, the national park was established. The park encompasses 100 square miles, and almost all of that is underwater. It also contains 7 islands, and 5 of those see little to no human interaction. And despite the difficulty in getting there, approximately 80,000 people visited the park in 2019 to snorkel, picnic, bird watch, and tour the fort. And if you haven't had a chance to go to the Dry Tortugas and you live in Florida, or even if you don't, you should definitely get out there. It's a really amazing place to visit. So because of its location, the Dry Tortugas experiences highly variable current patterns and conditions. The main currents often make the Tortugas region an important source of fish and invertebrate larvae for downstream areas of the Florida Keys, or entrain larvae and food supply to local reefs. The Dry Tortugas region is also highly influenced by the Caribbean Sea. This is one of the reasons why the protection and restoration of the resources in this area are so important to the health of the larger ecosystem and the Florida Keys and South Florida reefs. The region has been impacted over the years by episodic events that have caused a drastic decline in the branching staghorn coral. The long history of research within the park gives us a really clear picture of both the decline of the species and the potential causes of that decline. The first recorded impact was in 1878 when a dark colored water drifted from the mainland and killed a large stand of staghorn. The species recovered after that over the next 100 years, but a cold water event then caused what was revealed through transect studies to be up to 91% loss in staghorn coral in the late 1970s. A series of disease outbreaks and hurricanes more recently has continued to impact the populations, and it's estimated that the current cover of staghorn is a mere 1% of what it once was within the park. So this picture was taken in 1976, and this is the same reef today. So you can see the pretty drastic decline. Staghorn corals reproduce in 2 ways. One of the ways that they reproduce is by breaking and reattaching to a new spot on the reef. So that creates clones of the original colony. The second is by releasing gametes into the water column, and that only happens once a year. So basically we have 1 chance each year for the genetic material to be recombined in this species. So the main concern here is that the remaining individuals in some areas may be so far apart that their gametes never interact in the water column. And so we might not be getting any new genetic material. It might just be clones of the existing ones. And the problem with this is that it leads to less genetic diversity in the population and ultimately to less resilience to the stressors that Chris talked about. So in order to address this issue, TNC began to work with partners in the Keys in 2004 to develop and scale up methods of growing staghorn coral in underwater nurseries. This process was first pioneered by Ken Niedermeyer in the Upper Keys. The theory is that we can take very small fragments of a healthy colony, bring it into a nursery, grow out and fragment those individuals to create thousands of clones, and then outplant to local degraded reefs and clusters that contain genetically distinct individuals to encourage reproduction and the natural recovery of nearby reefs. These methods and others that are coming online more recently aim to restore not just individual colonies, but populations that are able to breed on their own. Over the next few years, the proof of concept was developed and the technology expanded to nurseries throughout the Keys, Southeast Florida, and the Caribbean. This is actually an old map. There's many, many more nursery programs now. And in 2009, as we geared up to implement a large-scale regional project funded by the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, the park approached us about installing a nursery within Dry Tortugas National Park. So the first step was to install and stock the nursery. We started by collecting 3 fragments from 20 different donor colonies, and in order to maximize the chances that each colony was genetically unique, we collected from 3 to 4 colonies at 6 different sites, and we made sure those colonies were spread across the reef. We continue to maintain most of the original genotypes that we collected. That was in 2012 that we did those collections. And we've also expanded the nursery to house what we call fragments of opportunity. And fragments of opportunity are a coral that we find that is a fragment, which is one of the ways that they reproduce naturally, but it is in a place where it isn't likely to survive. So if we find it in the sand or on some other sessile organism, or sometimes even just in an area where there's too much macroalgae for it to be able to survive there, then we'll collect that and bring it to the nursery. Over time, the nursery's grown and we've added blocks and what we call coral trees because they kind of look like a Christmas tree with corals hanging from them. The corals grow up to 3 times faster on the coral trees because they can grow in every direction and they get bathed in a lot of important nutrients by being suspended in the water column. The trees are also really convenient because we can hang 100 corals on one tree and they take up a much smaller footprint than our blocks do. So most of the coral nurseries in existence now are mostly populated by trees. So from the original 20 blocks and 200 corals that we had in 2012, our nursery now houses 87 blocks and 8 trees, and it produces at least 1,000 corals a year for outplanting, and then other material stays in the nursery. So that's not the full numbers in the nursery. So we faced a couple of challenges. We had 2 consecutive bleaching years in 2014 and 2015. And most of the corals within the nursery recovered, and it actually ended up being kind of an important learning lesson for us because we could see which genotypes were more susceptible to bleaching and which were less susceptible. We also get an annual algal bloom that generally comes through right about now, so it's in the spring, and you can see that it can be really dramatic to the point where you can't even see the corals hardly on the tree. And we have to be a little bit careful about getting out when this happens because it can cause tissue loss on the corals if the algae is there for too long. And then finally, we've had a couple winter storms that have caused significant damage in the nursery. We lost a tree one year and it ended up in the Middle Keys with live coral still on it. So those corals now live in the Middle Keys. And each year we select outplant sites based on the historic reef maps, like this one shown from the 1970s. We also do it based on current conditions at all the potential reef sites and the number of corals to be outplanted. So over the past 7 years of outplanting, we've placed over 6,000 colonies at 6 different sites, and they're circled on that map. And we consider ourselves really lucky to have these maps and a robust history of the natural events that have caused the declines in coral there, because we can make really smart decisions about where we think these corals are likely to survive. Okay, and now I'm going to try and do this video.
And Caitlin, while you try to share the video, and if it doesn't work, let us know.
So each spring, coral fragments are collected from the nursery and we take them to our pre-selected outplant site. We generally look for a site with some healthy corals that indicate that that site is still a good site for corals to live. The reef area is cleaned of macroalgae and other organisms that might compete with the coral as it lays a base of tissue onto the hard substrate. We install masonry nails into the reef, and then we secure the corals to that using zip ties. And you can see she's really cinching those down hard. We always say you want to hear the pellet scream a little bit.
Caitlin, we cannot see the video. It's all good.
Sorry.
No, it's, you were on it.
Because if they wiggle on that nail at all,
try to stop sharing screen
will
and share again.
not do well.
Yeah, maybe if you stop sharing
and the corals
screen.
that we've outplanted there do really well. This shows one of our outplants from our first year of outplanting. It was about 5 centimeters, the fragment that we outplanted, and you can see how much it grew in about 2.5 years. without the tag in front of it, we probably never would have realized that this was one of our outplants at that point. And this is more indicative of our current outplant methods. We start with much larger colonies now, and we outplant into what we call mini thickets. And these two pictures are just 1 year in between them, and that's how much growth we get. And barring any event like bleaching or a storm, we generally see upwards of 80% of the corals survive in that first year after outplanting. And with that, I'd like to thank the National Park Service who funds this work, and we'll pass it over to Hawaii.
So Caitlin, before we pass to Maui, Hawaii, actually, we couldn't see your video. So Yanni's going to push the video in for you. And then maybe you can talk over it, because it's a pretty cool video. And the diver might even be in the crowd. I heard that she might be joining us, so I don't know.
Abby, do you have the video readily available? I'm trying to pull it up. It's just that I have 20 windows.
Yes, I do. Let me share here my screen. And all right. And
Perfect.
here you go. And it has no videos, I mean, no sound. So if you want to talk over it, Caitlin, you can.
Sorry, I missed that. Did it not work the first time?
No, it didn't. Flavia, can you stop sharing with optimized video? It's slow.
Oh, sorry about that, guys. All right, let's try one more time. It's one of those videos. Let me just go back, because now the video disappeared. Oh. The video shut down, Yanni. So let me get the link again. Or maybe we can go to Emily's presentation, and then we'll share the video afterwards as I download it. Sorry, guys. As I was trying to stop sharing, it shut down everything. Technology.
Okay. So move over to Emily then. Emily, do you want to try sharing your screen?
Yep. Okay, how's that?
Perfect.
Great.
All right. Well, hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to the City of Miami and the County of Maui for hosting us, and the Nature Conservancy in Florida for co-presenting with us. I'm Emily Fielding with the Nature Conservancy in Hawaii, and Karen Osuga and I from the MAUI NUI MAKAI Network will be your presenters today. We're going to tell you a story about how important communities are in caring for our ocean environment. And we're going to ask you some questions along the way to help you with your Kahoot competition at the end. Okay, advancing. Hold on, we've just, there we go. So the Nature Conservancy has been working in Hawaii for 40 years. Our conservation goals are aligned with the states to effectively manage 30% of our watershed forests and nearshore reefs by 2030. Currently, well, what percentage of Hawaii's nearshore ecosystems and coral reefs do you think is protected now? Currently, less than 4% of our reefs are in managed areas, but that's changing as we engage local communities in effective management of important reefs, fisheries, and nearshore areas. The MAUI NUI MAKAI Network is an important partner in this effort. It's a network of 10 community and partner organizations that care for the ecosystems on which Hawaii's people depend. The network works to protect and restore healthy coastal and marine ecosystems for people using powerful place-based collaborative strategies. In 2013, community leaders from across Maui Nui came together to support, connect, and share lessons learned with each other. Today, we're going to tell you the story of the growing role of Indigenous and community-led management in Hawaii and the world, the importance of having healthy reefs and resources for people, and how community groups are expanding effective conservation in ways that are good for both people and nature.
So our park is located in Hawaii, and Hawaii is in the North Pacific Ocean. Does anyone know how far away Hawaii is from other places? We're pretty much like right in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. So Hawaii is about 2,500 miles from the west coast of North America and any other landmass. And that makes us the most isolated archipelago in the whole world and a biodiversity hotspot. And Maui is at the southern end of that island chain. It's a cluster of islands that used to be one big island thousands of years ago. Nui means big. So when we say Maui Nui, it refers to these islands that all used to be one big island. So does anyone know how many islands are part of Maui Nui? 100, oh, that's a little bit less than that. So there's about 4 islands in Maui Nui. Those are the main islands. And the network's community members are on 3 of those 4 islands. So they're located on Maui, Molokai, and Lanai. And Hawaii is also a multicultural society that celebrates its Hawaiian cultural identity. Hawaii was discovered by Polynesian settlers over 1,000 years ago. And Native Hawaiian people, through their resource management strategies, maximize the ecosystem services and the abundance of the key resource species. Hawaiian values continue to urge us to care for the land and sea today. And one of the most important of those values is kuleana. So if you have kuleana for a place, then you have the right and also the responsibility to care for it because of your connections to that place.
Indigenous people and local communities are leaders in the pursuit of lasting solutions to the world's most pressing conservation challenges. In Hawaii, the indigenous people and local communities have ecological wisdom deeply embedded within their cultures, enduring connections to place, and strong commitments to protecting their lands and waters for future generations. Like the community leaders of the MAUI NUI MAKAI Network, their leadership is key to conservation here and around the world.
So there are 7 community members as part of the MAUI NUI MAKAI Network, and each community group is working to protect resources and maintain their cultural traditions in their own communities. And then collectively as a network, by sharing and learning from each other's diverse experiences, they then improve their own products and projects. And then together, the network has reached thousands of people through outreach efforts. We've hosted over 15 workshops to empower the community and place-based management. And we're working to collectively manage over 30 miles of coast and reef.
In 2016, the state launched the Sustainable Hawaii Initiative to ensure a healthy environment and economy for Hawaii's people, committing to effectively manage Hawaii's nearshore reefs with 30% established as marine managed areas by 2030. The state's vision is a healthy nearshore ecosystem with abundant resources which allow the people of Hawaii to enjoy our coastal waters, support local livelihoods, and feed our families. And the network is an integral part of this vision.
And our reefs in Hawaii are made of corals. And just like Chris was saying about the Florida reefs, they provide a really, really important habitat for our reef fish, feeding people, protecting us from storms and rising sea levels, and supporting Hawaii's cultural traditions, our island lifestyle and economy, and generate more than $1 million a day here in Hawaii through tourism and other activities. So the reefs really do a lot for us. And Hawaii's reefs are especially awesome because about 1/4 of all of our species that are found out there on the reef are endemic. So that means that they're only found here and nowhere else in the world. So a little bit more about corals, you might know this already, but they're actually an animal that attaches to the bottom with its calcium carbonate skeleton. And they grow in colonies with algae inside of them, with that symbiotic relationship. So these are really, really incredible reefs that we have here in Hawaii as well, and they can live for a very long time.
However, as you can see from the pictures, the pressures of an increasing population and millions of visitors a year and all the things that go along with that are straining reefs and fisheries. Impacts from overfishing, sediment, pollution, and climate change have already contributed to 40% decline in living coral reefs in many areas across Hawaii, and an estimated 90% decline in some commercially important reef fish populations over the past century. So unable to sit by and watch Hawaii's ecosystems and way of life continue to decline, Hawaii's communities have answered the call to action and are getting involved in making things better.
So we're going to tell you a little bit more about some of the work that 3 of our community groups are doing. So these 3 groups, with a deep understanding of Hawaiian management practices and extensive knowledge of local conditions, are working together with the state to effectively manage ancestral fishing grounds and coral reefs. So the 3 that we're going to tell you about are Mo'omomi on the northwest coast of Molokai, remote Kipahulu on the east side of Maui, and the bustling town of Lahaina on the west side of Maui.
So the first of these is Mo'omomi. In 1992, the Hawaii State Legislature created a law to affirm and protect Native Hawaiian traditional and customary subsistence fishing and cultural practices, and to protect the marine resources on which these practices depend. There's a marine designation called Community-Based Subsistence Fishing Area. And Hui Malama o Mo'omomi on the island of Molokai has been working for over 2 decades to care for these fisheries and resources and to achieve this designation. Have you heard of subsistence fishing? Are you familiar with it? It's eating what you catch to feed your family. And their efforts are designed to maintain subsistence fishing as a viable option in a economy that fluctuates like any, especially in a time like this where many people don't have jobs, and encourage young people to learn and perpetuate traditional fishing practices. So pursuing this designation of 17 square miles of nearshore reef, the public process is finally underway. And Hui Malama o Mo'omomi, this group is so famous worldwide, they recently received the high honor of the 2019 United Nations Equator Prize for their perpetuation of indigenous and local knowledge and leadership in community-based conservation. This prize honored 22 local and indigenous organizations that have come up with innovative nature-based solutions, and they were chosen from among 847 nominations across 127 countries. Wow.
So the next community, Kipahulu on Maui on the east end, is also pursuing a community-based subsistence fishing area designation with rules that limit how much and what kind of fish and shellfish you can take. So this is a community-driven proposal, and it has the support of hundreds of East Maui residents seeking to increase resource abundance for everyone. And while the community wrote and proposed the rules, if established, the state of Hawaii would enforce them. So this is a step towards including communities in co-managing Hawaii's resources. And by doing this, the community is securing fish for our island's current and future generations and for their own long-term survival as subsistence fishers. And Kipahulu Ohana is seeking to protect over 6 miles of its coast and reef over in East Maui.
So the last example we have for you today is Lahaina. One of the reefs in Lahaina is called Napapa Limu o Pi'ilani. And who do you think this reef is named for? It's really unique for a reef to have its name, but this reef was so famous that it was named for a Hawaiian chief, Pi'ilani, because of its productivity and how special it is. Today, these sustainable practices of managing reefs are largely lost in a sea of tourists, but the reefs are, less vibrant than they have been in the past. Like other reefs in Florida and Hawaii, the reefs of Lahaina are built of growing corals, which is so important that the Hawaiian creation chant, the Kumulipo, that explains how life began, tells us that the coral polyp was the first organism created in the world. The coral was followed by sea stars, then sea cucumbers and sea urchins. Kind of amazing that coral is so important in Hawaiian culture. But to care for and improve the health of Lahaina's coral reefs and fisheries, a project team of community members, scientists, fishers, and natural resource managers and business owners convened to develop a conservation action plan for 8 miles of the Lahaina area. They formed a group called Lahui Ho'okaulike Ikekai, which translates to the group seeking balance between people and the ocean. They will begin meeting with the traditional knowledge holders and elders and by integrating cultural education, science, and Hawaiian wisdom into the process. So these efforts of local leaders empower and inspire the community to take care of the invaluable ecosystems that have taken care of people for generations. Many important things have been learned along the way, such as establishing trust between communities and government is essential for them to work well together. A bottom-up approach helps build trust and involvement in the community, and community involvement is critical. Starting small makes big things possible, and both science and traditional knowledge play critical roles in effective management. And partnerships are key to success. And as you see on the bottom, there's a Hawaiian saying that sums up these community efforts. Ina malama oi I ke kai, malama no ke kai ya oi. If you care for the ocean will care for you. So thank you very much from all of us and Maui Nui to all of you. And we'll be available to answer questions you might have after the video.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Karen and Emily. We really appreciate it. Emily, do you want us to share the video or do you want to share it yourself?
I can.
Or I think, Yenny, you got it on, right? Yeah.
Oh,
so,
go for it.
Yeah. So, Yenny, we can just go for it and then we'll share Caitlin that we miss because I think the diver is with us today too.
Are you sharing that Palmyra?
We are sharing the short one first, and then after Kahoot, we can share the other one. Yeah, guys, there is more videos after Kahoot. Stay tuned.
The Palmyra program is part of the Hawaii program, and Palmyra is about 1,000 miles south of Hawaii in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
Awesome, thank you. And Yenny, before we move to Kahoot, can we quickly just share Caitlin's video? And that one we'll share without the sound, so Caitlin can talk about it. It's an exciting one too. That was beautiful, Emily. Thanks. Brought me some peace and calm.
I love the music.
I just want to go to Hawaii right now.
Okay. Sharing again. Do you guys see it?
Yep.
Awesome. Caitlin, do you want to explain a little bit?
Yeah, so this is the outplanting methods that we use. So we put these nails in the reef and then we zip tie the coral to the nail. And we usually put a little epoxy at the base at the end so that the coral doesn't wiggle on the nail because that will abrade the tissue. And Becca was on here earlier, but I think she dropped off. But
Great.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, Becca was the diver. I heard that she was in the crowd. So, all right. Awesome, guys. I think, Yanni, should we move to Kahoot? Let me see if there is any. Oh, Chris nail. Chris, you nail in the Q&A. There were a lot of questions and Chris was like, ta, 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 ta. So, all right. So we're going to move to Kahoot. And guys, if you guys have any questions for the panelists, please throw in the Q&A. And after Kahoot, we're going to be asking the questions. And then stay with us. We have another really cool video from Hawaii as well.
Yeah, you can also see within the Q&A if there's any questions, you know, that someone else may have asked that you were also thinking of. So just look through it because there's a lot of them.
Yeah, and you know what, Annie, while you share the screen, maybe Chris, you or any of the panelists actually, because I know I received an email with folks wanting to know what is the impact of hurricanes in our coral reefs. And you're on mute, Chris.
Yeah, well, we have had, you know, hurricanes are part of the ecosystem. They've been part of our world in Florida, and, you know, cyclones or whatever you call them in Hawaii as well have been a part of the ecosystem. But with the, you know, the impacts from climate change and water quality and local impacts affecting them, I think it makes it a lot harder for the reefs to withstand the effects of hurricanes. But generally, those effects can be breakage, so the big waves breaking, especially branching corals, or even breaking off sort of big ledges with other sorts of corals growing on them. We can have scouring, which is like sandblasting, but instead of the sand being blown by air, it's blown by or moved by water. So it scours the coral tissue right off of the rocky skeleton. And you can also have, so the sand or mud or sediment can really move around in a hurricane and can bury the corals or smother the corals. So those are some of the major effects, but there can also be some positives. You know, under the right circumstances, the scouring can scour away some bad things like unwanted algae or competing organisms and make it possible for new corals to grow. And in some cases, the broken fragments of coral can be, you know, moved by the hurricane to new locations where some of them may take hold. So it's not all bad.
Awesome, thank you. All right, guys, and now the moment you've been waiting for, it's Kahoot time. All right, and Yanni's just loading it. Prepare your phones and log in to kahoot.it. Here you go, you have the website right there, www.kahoot.it. And Yanni, you run the show, so go for it.
Sure. So as Flavia said, go to the URL you see up here and then put in the pin that's underneath here. So it's 1328270. And we'll wait for everyone to log in. And for those of you playing for the first time, you get points based off the correct answer and how fast you answer. So keep that in mind. And then we have about 45 people join us. So I'm hoping everyone jumps on.
I love the nicknames.
Wait a few more seconds and then we'll get started.
Yanni, we should award the best nicknames too.
I like Fisher from Friends. Okay. Well, we have a good number of people. We'll get started.
Let's do it. All right. Woo. Are you guys ready? Are you ready?
What is subsistence eating? Almost all of you got it right. One person. Someone doesn't like sharing their food, it seems. All right, let's move on. So we have EG at the top. All right, next question. Which of these are valuable products of Florida's coral reefs? All of the above. All right. Who's at the top now? Fisher Friends. Great. All right. Next question. True or false? Coral's an animal with a calcium carbonate skeleton. Everyone got it right. Okay, next question. Also true and false. Oh, wait. Oh, T Stark is at the top for this one. All right, next question. True or false again? Corals have tiny symbiotic algae that live in its tissue, creating energy for photosynthesis. Definitely true. And Ebony is at the top. Les is on a streak, great. Let's move on. What percentage of Hawaii's nearshore ecosystems are protected? Most of you got it right. It's okay. So who's at the top? We have Car. Awesome. Oops, sorry about that. Multi-select. How many islands are in Maui? It's not supposed to be multi-select. Only one correct answer. All right, let's see who the winners are.
Yeah, we couldn't hear you, Yanni. She said that she's going to put her email in the chat. So whoever won it,
I'll put my email in for the winners.
You guys receive prizes when we are back to City Hall, guys. So keep praying for us to be back to City Hall. So we're still at home. We're gonna go anywhere still. We'll be back soon. So guys, we have one more video, and let me see if anybody has any burning questions here. Please throw your questions in the Q&A. And does any of the panelists know what is the percentage of the Hawaii Reef affected by bleaching?
Yeah, I just put the answer in the chat, but in 2015, 50 to 90% of the corals bleached, depending on which reef. And then a lot of them recovered, a lot of them didn't. And then we had another bleaching event in 2019, and about 10% of those corals bleached. And we're just starting to, you know, we just finished with our cool water, so not sure how much is bleached right now, but that's what's happened in the last few years.
Awesome. Thank you, Emily. All right. And again, yeah, you guys really nailed on the Q&A. You really responded everything. But guys, yeah, feel free to for more questions there. And we are going to share one more video from Hawaii, so you guys can all relax, go to bed today like in peace, and wanting to go to Hawaii. And Yenny, do you want to share the video or do you want me to share it?
I accidentally closed the window, so now I'm trying to find it. So if you have it available, please feel free to share it.
Oh gosh, today we're not on look. I had it open. You have it? Yeah, because I have the 57 one, and I have the one Rebecca Delph one. Here we go. Yay! And did you click on the...
Kiholo ay naaloha lana e ka manao na mea kaulana.
Whenever I think of a peaceful, beautiful, spiritual place, I think of Kiholo Fish Pond.
Upon his death in 1989, hair care product icon Paul Mitchell left his son Angus a 7-acre property at Kiholo Bay on the North Puna coast of Hawaii Island. In 2012, Angus donated the $6.5 million site to the Nature Conservancy. Since then, the Conservancy has been restoring the site with Hui Aloha Kiholo, an organization that includes the area's lineal descendants. Together with a growing army of dedicated volunteers, they use hand tools, chainsaws, and muscle to restore the ancient Kiholo fish pond built by King Kamehameha I.
Estuaries like the Kiholo Fish Pond keep the waters along our coast clean and productive. So the coral reefs in West Hawaii are some of the healthiest in the state.
Kiholo volunteers gather monthly to clear keawe and other invasive plants from the shoreline, revealing the old rock walls and bringing the 3-acre fish pond, or Kaloko o Kiholo, back to health and productivity. Popular food fish, such as moi and striped mullet, are making a comeback. And certain unique creatures, including hapawai, a mollusk, and opai, shrimp, are also flourishing, proving the ongoing viability of this centuries-old Hawaiian aquaculture system.
These lands of North Kona, they built me. They built my family. It is therefore our responsibility, our kuleana, to care and steward and restore these lands so they once again feed us as they once fed our ancestors. So together with the Nature Conservancy, we steward, we malama our kuleana, care for these lands that have built us.
Kiholo Bay is just one example of the Nature Conservancy's approach to marine conservation across the Hawaiian Islands. The Conservancy provides the science and other expertise to help families in the coastal communities better understand and manage their ocean resources. Hawaii's coral reefs and nearshore waters are home to 7,000 forms of marine life, 1/4 of them found nowhere else on Earth. As a source of food, recreation, and income, Hawaii's reefs contribute about $1 million a day to the state's economy, and an immeasurable sum to the culture and well-being of residents and visitors alike.
Hawaii is unique. We have a really special natural and cultural community here, but we're also deeply connected to every other place in the Pacific and around the world. We're connected by water, we're connected by air, and we're connected by a spirit of personal accountability and taking care of this place.
Please support the Nature Conservancy and its partners as we work to maintain and restore healthy fish populations for future generations.
Awesome, awesome. What a nice way to to end our Sutainachella. See, Luis left us to go to yoga. He didn't need yoga. He just needed to watch the video. All right, guys. Well, I want to thank all the panelists, Chris, Emily, Caitlin, Karen. Thank you so much. You guys are amazing. I don't know if you guys want to say anything, share anything. I mean, it's just Sutainachella, you know, you guys can do whatever you guys want.
Thanks you guys for hosting us and being our new friends. It's been so fun to meet all of you in Florida. We really appreciate you.
We are going to hunt you in Hawaii, Emily. You did the presentation, now all of us are going to Hawaii. What do you think?
Corona is over. We will see you.
This was fantastic. Thank you very much for putting it together.
No, thank you guys. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I also want to thank Yeni for all her hard work, Michelle, Liz for keeping up all the good vibes, and just finishing here with love and gratitude, guys. Send you lots of love and gratitude. Thank you so much for joining us again. And Friday, we are going to be talking about composting. So stay tuned. We are going to have folks from Florida and from Kauai talking about composting programs and how you can compost at home. So pretty cool thing to do right now. I'm actually composting my house. So really cool thing to learn about. So join us on Friday. It's at 3 o'clock, Yeni? I have no memory anymore.
Yeah, 3 o'clock.
All right, 3 o'clock Eastern time. And that's -6 for Hawaiian time. So you guys can do the math. All right, well, guys, thank you so much. And I'll see you guys on Friday. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.